Okay, so suppose you only have 5 career runs per day to prepare for a champions meeting. Do you spend them training parents or do you focus on creating a potential ace? Alright, good morning, good afternoon, good evening class. This is Mr. Arocena. Today I'm going to talk about my approach to parent legacies in Umamusume. My approach is pretty simple. I always train aces first. Strong aces naturally become strong parents, and every action should maximize CM ready potential given time and limited resources. By focusing on aces, we ensure that every career run has the highest chance of producing a viable CM contender. Parents aren't ignored, they're just a byproduct of this method. Okay, so traditional parent farming usually starts by making parents. This comes at a cost though, because every parent run consumes one of your limited borrows that could have been used for an ace career. That means you have less time and resources to make a CM ready ace. Or you spend more time and resources doing both. In contrast, ace first training prioritizes training potential aces. Borrowed parents are used to maximize your chances of producing at least one CM ready ace every day. At this point, a reasonable question does come up. Don't you need 2 good parents to train a good ace? And early on, the answer is no, not really, because you're not trying to create a perfect ace quite yet. When you're starting out, one borrowed parent carries most of the inheritance value. The other parent might be weak and that's fine. Those early aces are expected to do 2 things. 1, perform in CMs or team trials, and 2, become better parents than what you started with. And sometimes they actually do both. And that's how this philosophy formed for me. I started out the game by trying to make parents in a traditional method, and then I realized that I could have used those runs to be training aces instead. Once I shifted to ace first training, some of those early aces failed, but even failed aces still moved my overall stable quality forward. For example, my first 9-star parent was a failed air groove ace, and my first 3-star speed parent came from a Maruzensky ace. Neither of those runs started as parent projects, they started as ace attempts, and then they became parents only after the fact. Okay, so here's what this looks like in practice. So let's say I'm going to build a Symboli Rudolph ace for a long track. I'm going to borrow, so in my borrows, I'm going to borrow, I think I have a good Majiro Dober that I found. I'm going to borrow this Majiro Dober because it has 3, 4, 5, 8 long sparks and has a good selection of white skills in both grandparent lines. Then I'm going to pair it with one of my rice showers, this rice shower here, because this rice shower has also a lot of long sparks, I think 6 long sparks, and has a large number of white skills, and also has a Majiro Ryan in its inheritance for an additional Let's Pump Some Iron. Okay. During ace training, we naturally aim for stat thresholds that are relevant to the upcoming champions meeting. Usually, in most cases, this means prioritizing maximum speed, so around 1200, along with around 600 stamina, power, and wit. Now, these thresholds matter for 2 reasons. First, they're usually what's needed for good CM performance, and second, hitting those stat thresholds also increases the chances of rolling strong 3-star sparks, which makes the ace valuable as a parent even if it doesn't make the final team. Skill selection follows the very same logic. We prioritize skills that are relevant to the coming champions meeting because those skills can also be passed down through inheritance. If a run clearly isn't going to produce a CM ready ace, for example you miss an S rank aptitude or you fall short of max speed, then the priority shifts. At that point, the goal isn't to force the ace, it's to salvage long-term value by selecting skills that keep the Uma useful as a parent. That way, even unsuccessful runs still contribute to future success. Now, there are trade-offs to this method. You can't use a new parent to train the same ace because Umas can't parent themselves. So if you get an excellent parent of your Oshi, you have to use her with other Umas. Your stable does become specialized over time. So for example, I tend to produce parents for the strategies I play, like late surgers and pace chasers. So my stable is not very generalized. And you may not have the right parents when a really strong meta Uma arrives, in which case you'll need to spend some time adapting your stable if you want to use a new meta Uma effectively. Now, you may find this philosophy similar to looping. From my understanding, looping is primarily about creating the perfect parent first with the goal of eventually producing a perfect ace. It's a valid approach, but it does come with a heavy time commitment and is incredibly RNG dependent. You can spend many runs chasing ideal spark combinations and still end up with nothing usable because of RNG. By contrast, ace first training is a resource efficient strategy. CM ready aces are the priority and strong aces can naturally become usable parents. Now, my original idea was based on 3 borrowed parents per day, but recently Cygames increased the daily borrow limit from 3 to 5. At first glance, that sounds like it should change everything, but interestingly, it actually reinforces the core idea. Those 5 borrows are still a limited resource, so the question doesn't change. It's still how do you get the most CM relevant value out of them? More borrows doesn't change what success looks like, they only change what you can do after you've achieved it. By default assumption is still the same, every borrow has a chance at a CM ready ace. If you secure the viable ace early in the day, then the remaining borrows can be used to deliberately build parents. That's a hybrid extension, not a replacement of the ace first philosophy. Once you adopt this mindset, the individual steps become much easier to evaluate, and I'll cover those steps in another lesson. One thing I didn't cover in detail here is the actual spark inheritance math, so how spark values transfer and what determines a 3-star spark. It's a technical detail that matters, but it's also a topic that deserves its own dedicated lecture, so we don't muddy the main idea of this one. Okay, so to summarize, with limited career runs and borrow opportunities, every career run matters. Ace first training maximizes the chance of producing a CM ready ace each day, makes efficient use of borrowed parents, and naturally builds a strong, albeit specialized, stable. So what happens when your stable strengths don't match the upcoming CM? Well, next class we'll discuss how to adapt without losing this ace first philosophy. See you next class.